Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Keepin It Loose Podcast. My name is Dalton Skach. I'm here with my co-host Cole C. Skach, Wolfpack, and rejoining us, Oliver Shawa, OMamba. In this week's episode, we are going to be discussing two questions. We are going to be discussing what is our most undervalued NFL team and why, whether that be undervalued in our perspective or untapped potential. That's question one. And question two is going to be what are 5 things that we would do to improve this team's value as an investor, as someone maybe purchasing an NFL team. But before we get into this, we got to ask Oliver, you were gone last week for episode 3. We want to ask where you were. You now have this mustache. Not sure if you saw, but Pat McAfee mentioned what we were talking about last week with the NIL and college football market caps. Can you give us a little bit, the audience, some idea of where you were and where this mustache came from?
Absolutely. Well, I was just down in Texas. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just not down in Texas. But thinking about the NIL, I mean, I missed it. I missed the conversation. It was sad. It was sad. What?
The audience was sad too. So we're just
not very loose. It's just not very loose, dude. That's all I'm saying.
Wasn't keeping it loose. As a matter of fact, where was I last Wednesday? Not here. Not here. Not in the right spot. Not in the right spot.
Episode.
Yeah. Well, long story short, though, it was a great episode. You guys killed it. And I wish I could have been a part of that. And it was awesome to hear Trump and Pat McAfee at the Air Force Base. Was it the Air Force Base? It was Carolina.
Yeah, South Carolina. Hoorah!
Hoorah! Yeah, they were there and they were talking exactly about what you guys were talking about last week. It was awesome. And they're totally right. It's going to be a cluster. You know, the more you get these guys getting all this money in there, it's just a race to the bottom, and these schools don't make enough money. They're going to go bankrupt.
Yeah,
so you guys aced that. That was awesome.
I see you're trying to get off topic about where you were in the mustache, but that is okay. We just want to say, happy Marines birthday, happy Veterans Day. We're all very pro-military, pro-America here on the Keepin It Loose podcast. But without further ado, we're going to hop in today's discussion. So, gentlemen, first question is, what is our most undervalued NFL team and why? And I think we're going to start it off by going to our co-host, Oliver Shawa, who was a little bit absent last week. And we're going to see what his viewpoint on his most undervalued NFL team and maybe the high-level idea of why.
Absolutely. Well, let's cut right to the point.
Let's do it.
Let's cut right to the point. It's Cleveland Browns. It's the Cleveland Browns.
The land?
Me, Cleveland. Cleveland.
Cleveland?
I'm talking about Cleveland. You know why? Because I believe. I absolutely believe, and I could not believe any more in a team that has such a deep history in the sport of football. That is the first team that comes to my mind when I think of, wow, what a tradition we have in the United States of America. They were champions in the AAFC before they joined the NFL, and then they took down the Rams in the first game. Incredible. When you think about all-time gritty power backs, who do you think about? No face mask.
Jim Brown.
That's right. I mean, I love the history. It's sad to see that the team's not in the spot that they could be if I was the owner. No disrespect. However, I think that is the team that I would choose full-heartedly to make a comeback and build the dynasty out of.
I'm curious to hear, do you think it's a cheap team? Do you think it's a discounted team? Or do you think that it just has so much untapped value that you're going to unlock, Joe?
Well, if you look at the teams and kind of where everyone is valued across the board, Cleveland's a little bit of a mid-tiered, franchise, if you would. They're not on the lowest of ends. They're not on the highest of ends. They're right around that $6 billion mark, if I'm not mistaken. And obviously it's not for sale. I'm sorry, what?
What would you call a lower end team if the Browns aren't a lower end team?
I'm not talking about performance. I'm talking about valuation.
Or just the franchise in general.
Yeah, I mean, I think the brand holds a lot of value that is being untapped. I mean, I know people that have been Cleveland fans for decades, and they've just watched them suffer. So I think the brand has a lot of value. It's like I'm not gonna talk about what we've seen in the current events with brands, but I am going to say that you don't change what's worked. And these people love Cleveland. Obviously, there's a little bit of a disagreement with the city and the team right now, but there's a lot of value in that team. So they're a mid-tier team as far as valuation goes, but as far as brand goes, I think they're as good as it gets.
OMamba, love to hear it. I'm super excited to hear what you're going to do to unlock that value. But before we get into that, Skach, without further ado, would you have to share what your team is this week?
Yeah, no, that was surprising because I'm very interested to see and hear what Oliver has to say about that.
Yep.
That looking into all 32 NFL teams in this, that was certainly one at a lower part of my list, and so I think it's going to be cool to see. Again, we're talking undervalued, untapped potential, and the
Right.
fact that the Cleveland Browns are $6 billion valuation this year. My Los Angeles Chargers are $4.2 billion right now, which you want to talk about a low tiered value team. The Los Angeles Chargers are about as low of a value as they could possibly be at right now. And I think there's going to be a lot of reasons that we'll go through today. I think there's an identity crisis with the Chargers. I think, we've talked about this in prior episodes, real estate, stadium ownership, things of that nature, and the revenue that drives for a team, and the control that drives for a team. They've really, really lost a lot of momentum in what they had going when they were in questionably, in my eyes, the greatest city in the country, San Diego, California. And so I think it's a really, for me, it's a long-term investment play. I think you're getting them at a very discounted value right now. I think this is a 20 to 25, maybe even a 30-year play for me. And we'll kind of get into that a little bit later. But I think there's identity problems. I think their fan base is really hurting and lacking. There's no trust there. And then again, I think stadiums and the ownership of a stadium is one of the biggest drivers of revenue and valuation for a team, and they just don't have it being a co-tenant with the Los Angeles Rams. So
I know I'd be curious. I mean, you both mentioned the valuations or the expected valuations of the team. I would be curious to see where those came from. I can't imagine a world in which the Los Angeles Chargers would be valued to any billionaire out there less than the Cleveland Browns. So that's just one thing that I'd push back on a little bit. We saw the Commanders trade a little bit couple years ago for around 6 billion. So Oliver saying that he's getting some sort of estimate around 6 billion for the Browns. Skach is getting an estimate around 4.5 billion for the Los Angeles Chargers after they've built a multi-billion-dollar stadium and they're in one of the largest markets.
they didn't
Definitely.
they didn't build it. They didn't build it. I'll tell you that much. They didn't build it at all. They didn't really finance it at all either. So that's going to come a lot into this valuation right now. I think there's valuations everywhere. I mean, the valuation is, again, what is a person, an entity willing? What's their willingness to pay for something? And right now
Right.
they are over
Exactly.
leveraged. They're over leveraged, and you go off of revenue multiples, and they're not able to reach these revenue multiples of, honestly, the other 31 teams because of their co-tenant structure. It's not a co-ownership structure, it's a co-tenant structure. So I think that'll be an interesting area of discussion. But Dalton, I would love to hear where you're at with yours over here, because I think those are two potential curveballs. I mean, maybe not the Los Angeles Chargers, the Cleveland Browns, definitely a curveball. What, D Skach is our main host here. What are you seeing on your end?
Right. Before I get into the choice I made this week, one thing I want to push back on is these teams are not trading at multiples. These billionaires are not buying a team and going, "Oh, I'm going to be a little bit over levered on my team." They could pay for this all in cash and pay for everything in cash and not have to use any financing on any of these things. So I'm not necessarily going to say that, oh, the Chargers have a smaller revenue stream than the Browns, and therefore I'm going to buy at that. I wouldn't say that at all, just because of the market, the stadium, all the other things. I know that they don't maybe own the stadium. You know a lot more about the Chargers than we do, and we're gonna get into that on the call. But I just want to push back on that a little bit, and we'll dive into that. But before we do so, I mean, like, what do you two think I chose for my
I
most
I don't I
undervalued?
don't I don't even think it needs a drum roll because I already know where you're coming from, and it's sad, and I feel for you, and if there was anyone else that could do it, it could be you.
It means a lot. That means a lot. Well, I think
The New York Jets, Chew. That's the answer.
the New York Jets is the answer. I mean, in terms of untapped potential as well as undervalued, what's beautiful about the New York Jets, about valuation, is that they have a comparable. They're in the same city, same stadium as the New York Giants. And the New York Giants are worth $2 billion more expected. So there means there's $2 billion right there that's just sitting there, that someone just needs to go in there and fix the team and performance and the brand of the New York Jets. And right there unlocks at least $2 billion in value. So that's one thing, but also it being not only the largest financial center in the United States, I think it being the largest financial center in the world, some would even say in the galaxy, which we will get to here in a little bit. And so it's really about, hey, it's being a little bit of discounted, but we're also going to see a lot of untapped potential. Also, I like to think about it this way. Maybe you could buy a team for, again, $2 billion, and then you sell it for $10 billion, $8 billion in gains. You could also buy a team for $10 billion and sell a team for $18 billion, another $8 billion in gain, right? Which scenario would you rather be in? Of course, it'd be scenario A, right? And that's where you get the 4x returns rather than maybe the 80% return. So that's where I'm at. We have the Cleveland Browns with Oliver Shawa. We have the Los Angeles Chargers with Skach, and we have the New York Jets.
What did you say? What did you
Dalton
say?
Skach.
If I could interrupt real quickly, what did you say that the Jets are currently expected value at now?
Around $8.5 billion. Like Cole
$8.5 billion.
said, it's dependent on who what people are willing to pay, which is why I
Right.
would assume somebody be willing to pay more for the Los Angeles Chargers than they would for the Cleveland Browns. You could maybe even make an argument that they'd rather pay more for the Los Angeles Chargers than the New York Jets, but we're going to get into that. So, but that was the easy part, gentlemen, really identifying the teams that we're going to rock and roll with, the teams that we're going to go out and use our billions to purchase. But now we got to get into, hey, what are we going to do as owners to unlock the potential? The top 5 things. Does anybody want to go first?
Yeah, this is just going to open up a huge can of worms here.
Absolutely.
And still going back to your point of leveraged and revenue multiples, that's just simply not where I'm coming at this from. Where you're talking about a team that can come, or an entity or a person that can come in and buy the Chargers in all cash, right? I mean, that's absolutely the case, but you want to have a well-oiled machine that you're coming into that has potential to strengthen their revenue numbers over time. And I think the Chargers currently are pigeonholed to doing so, which should affect their valuation in the short term. When we talk about the long term and some of the things that I think the Chargers are going to immediately have to do and have to start taking action on, if they haven't, is they need to strengthen the trust in their current fan base. They've hurt a lot of people. I don't know if everybody remembers. I mean, that day when the Chargers said that they were moving to Los Angeles and how many people were upset, up in arms, how many people said they were never going to go to a game in LA. They're done purchasing merchandise. I think one of the biggest things that the Chargers need to figure out first is strengthening their fan base again. And I think the ways that you can do that are offering San Diego residents, let's say, discounts to the Los Angeles Chargers games. I think you can host more, let's call it, watch parties in Petco Stadium or different bars or things of that nature, or just use the star power of Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert, Dayton Madison Beer, right? You got a lot of star power that you can use right now to strengthen their current fan base. And I think it all starts and ends with Dean Spanos. I think he needs to be the voice of reason and motivation for the franchise moving forward. I don't think, I was even looking today in my search of, when the last time Dean Spanos got up and spoke to anybody. and I can't really find anything. I mean, literally ever since he's done what he's done, he has gone into his own little hole.
Well, I think
Um,
we can all agree that we're looking at this from an investor perspective as if we were acquiring these teams and running these teams. And obviously we all think that these owners can do better, or else they wouldn't be in the position that they are, right?
mhm,
We all see a potential with these teams, and it really does start at the top. We've seen it with the Washington Commanders, and we're
mhm.
going to see it with more NFL franchises being sold.
Yeah, and honestly, Dalton, you brought up one of my like main comparisons today to how I think the Chargers can just immediately unlock potential from a valuation standpoint. And it's the same thing that happened to Dan Schneider and him getting pushed out of the Washington Commanders. And what has happened since then and what is going to continue happening for the Commanders because of that. And I think Dean Spanos is going to need at some point to get pushed out of that position because he has lost the faith of all Chargers fans and the fan base. And so I think that's a great comparison. And I think the Commanders are seeing a lot of uptick in their valuation. They're looking to build the new stadium, right? Like there's a lot of cool things that are happening that I think is eventually going to need to happen with the Los Angeles Chargers, where you can use a comp to Dan Schneider to the Washington Commanders. So I think it's a good point. I think that even kind of leads me into my second point here a little bit, which is starting to tap in. There's a lot of untapped market share potential in LA. And the Chargers have the ability to go to one of the biggest economies in the country and start to poke into some of that market share that right now the Los Angeles Rams are just simply dominating. And so I think when you're looking at even the next several years here as an owner, and what I would want to do is I would want to start digging into the community of LA, right? And even bringing more so of a SoCal coastal vibe to the Los Angeles Chargers versus movie star Hollywood Los Angeles Rams. Because I think there's a lot of people that live in Santa Monica, that live in Newport Beach, that have a little bit more of that San Diego vibe than the Los Angeles Hollywood vibe. And so I think there's a lot of untapped market share in there. And I think some of the things that you can do is, start getting involved with more youth football leagues in LA, start getting involved with, younger schools or schools in general with LA that you think match the identity and the brand, because that's what the Chargers are trying to find again is an identity and a new brand that they can go out and market. Because just like with Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys, he's mastered that. That's why they sit as, I think, right now, the number one most valued, high valued team in the NFL. I mean, it's Jerry's world, right? And they've done a phenomenal job at marketing that. And while I don't think the Los Angeles Chargers can get there yet, I think that they can tap into the market share for LA. But my plan eventually, 20 years from now, 25 years from now, in 2039, when that lease is up, is they've got to move back to San Diego.
In
And
20
so,
years after they've built this relationship, you're gonna date this for 20 years, not put a
mhm.
ring on it, and then you're gonna exit the relationship.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just because I think the identity and the brand, like they've got to build this identity and brand up there in LA no matter what. And so I think that that's going to stick with people no matter where they go. And moving back down to San Diego, I think is going to be something in the future that has to happen for the Los Angeles Chargers to unlock their full potential. So those first 2 points I made are short-term plays
Yeah,
to get this franchise back and running.
yeah. Well, it sounds like, I mean, you mentioned not short term, you mentioned 2039 breaking the lease and going back to San Diego. I wouldn't call that a short term thing.
That's my long term. That's we haven't even gotten into my other couple points here, because
Yeah.
those my first 2 points are the fan bases and strengthening the current fan base while tapping into the LA market share and starting to get some of that, where you start also, and this is going to go into the stadium side of things, but my long-term play is, there's so many disadvantages to being a co-tenant in a stadium. They have essentially lost all control and, I would call it financial autonomy over what they are able to do because they are at the mercy of Kroenke Sports and the Los Angeles Rams. The Los Angeles Rams and Kroenke Sports basically almost finance the entire stadium themselves. And so what that means is obviously they have that asset ownership, that long-term asset ownership over that stadium that has also allowed them to dominate the revenue sharing agreement that they have with the Los Angeles Chargers. So when you think about merchandise, you think about the sales of beverages and food, you think about parking, obviously you think about tickets, premium suites, all of that stuff. This is where I said earlier, it's not that they're over leveraged that somebody can't come in and buy them. They're just leveraged from the standpoint that they can't financially, their ceiling is low
Yeah.
because they're not able to do a lot of those other things. So that's the longer term play.
What
Yeah, I
what
know we
does
have
that revenue share look like between the Rams and the Chargers at SoFi? What does that actually did you get the chance
Yeah.
to look into that?
Yeah, and they didn't, I didn't get like perfect numbers. It didn't seem to be public information, but there's a difference between being co-tenants and co-owners. And there's like the Jets at MetLife with the Giants. That's a co-ownership agreement, right? So that helps a little bit more from the revenue split side. From the co-tenant side of things, like some people were speculating it's a 70-30 across the board, maybe 75-25 across the board from the articles that I was looking at from a revenue share perspective. And so again, I know teams are not getting sold on revenue multiples, but the teams that are driving higher revenue are going to be worth more money at the end of the day. I'm happy for you to come in and try to debunk that, but I think the teams that have a higher ceiling to generate more revenue and have the ability, I mean, we all know all the advantages that go on with owning real estate as well and being a business that owns their own real estate. And so I just think there's a lot of those reasons why they're not able to make as much money year over year as some of these other teams are.
If I may make a comment in a non-combative way, be taking as combative, I'd ask this question to Oliver about Cole's choice, but it seems like when going into this investment, this relationship, it seems like a not very free in terms of freedom. There's not a lot of freedom to do a lot with this team, C Scotch. You're talking about they're stuck in a stadium, they're stuck in a market. You don't want anything to do with it. You want to get out of there in 20 years. You want to put all this money and time into it. I mean, why you had 32 teams to look at where you could do maybe whatever you want to do with a stadium, with a market, with whatever. Why would you go into this toxic relationship? Did you get that at all,
I,
Oliver?
I'm
Well, I'll just say this, sometimes it is about the challenge, right? Sometimes it is about the cards you've been dealt. And I'm not talking about that just because I got a stash on, but I'm saying that because it's true. And I mean, that's the reality of the Chargers right now. That is the complete reality of the Chargers is they're in a bad position. They're a great team. They're a great team. And usually if you're looking at any product, you want to win the customers first, right? You want to make sure that end user is in love with you. Right now, that identity is missing, and that's what a fan base needs. And so, yeah, they're a great organization, but they're just in a weird spot, and everything financially, from their lease and the stadium, that's et cetera, it's limited. And so, what I think Cole's doing, I'm not saying it's the easiest route by any means. It's definitely a challenging one, but I think he's found a team that he says, "God dang, I love the team. I knew you liked the Chargers growing up. I mean, we all watched LT and Phillip Rivers and Antonio Gates. We
Yeah.
watched these
Antonio
guys
Cromartie.
tear it up.
Well,
It's one of the biggest heartbreaks in football, of
yeah.
our lifetime is them going up to did not make sense, and now they're in a weird spot. So the idea is how can we get them out of there? And I think that's kind of what you're tackling. But yeah, it is not an easy situation, Skach. It is not the easy as far as a return on investment
it's
over a
hard.
given amount of time. That's a hard one for sure.
The hard one with the big risk too, going back in 20 years to your ex to see if she still likes you, wants
Well,
you.
High risk,
high reward.
word. Okay.
Uh-huh. Play hard to get.
That's exactly why C Skach, aka Wolfpack, went with the Los Angeles Chargers, Dalton. You have every reason to believe that this is not going to be easy. This is going to be a challenge. This is going to take over 20 years to really see that investment that I'm looking to make in this team. And I think that they will be one of the most valuable teams in the NFL when they come out of this. And the ways that they're going to do that, I think overall, a change in ownership, change in general, it can be hard, it can be challenging, it can be disruptive. But when you have a change in ownership, when you're already starting to, basically go anarchy, right, on Dean Spanos right now, well, that change brings a new level of excitement for these fans. And so if there's a new owner that comes in the next 5 to 10 years, that would be kind of what I'm looking at here, is coming in the next 5 to 10 years, taking over and starting to rebuild complete trust in that fan base while installing market share and building on market share in Los Angeles and using your stars. When I come in and when I take over the Los Angeles Chargers, I'm going to be bringing in Phillip Rivers. I'm going to be bringing in LaDainian Tomlinson. I'm going to be bringing in Antonio Gates. They are going to help be the face of this franchise. And it's going to hopefully, in my eyes, revamp the franchise. And, when we talk about, you're broken up with your ex-girlfriend and you're moving back, like the San Diego Chargers fans, I can say, we'll take the Los Angeles Chargers back at any time, especially when they build the stadium that they're going to build attached to the convention center in downtown San Diego on the water. It is going to be magnificent. It's going to be a beautiful stadium. It's going to make SoFi look stupid 20 years from now. It is going to be electric. The energy that is going to come back in 2039 when the Los Angeles Chargers move back to San Diego and
All
bring
right.
some of those LA
All
fans.
right. All right. Well, we've been talking for a little while. We got to let Oliver and Dalton Skach speak a little bit. So maybe with your last 3 points, C. Skach, you want to add any creativity to your methods?
Well, the creativity, I mean, we have to optimize the SoFi partnership as well. I think being a co-tenant, there is some leverage that we have with the Los Angeles Rams. So just kind of a quick point there. I'd really like to optimize the current SoFi partnerships, whether that's through concerts, different events, sponsorships, just starting to get our fingers in a little bit more stuff that Kroenke Sports has kind of dominated, and using the leverage of us leaving to do so, in the intermediary. And then again, I just think the long-term real estate play and the market shift, you can say that's 4A and 4B or 4 and 5, but I
Yeah.
think going back into a market shift is also going to bring some more untapped potential to it. So those were my 5 points. I'd obviously love to hear
You,
yours. I appreciate the comments, but I'm going high risk, high reward here, is plain and simple.
can you break them down just more concisely, just really quickly, maybe in one short sentence, these 5 points, maybe even to 2 or 3 words each?
Yeah, I think we strengthen our current fan base. We tap into the market share that's currently not there right now. I think we start leaning on the media perspective, the media personality perspective of Herbert, LaDainian Tomlinson, Antonio Gates, Dean Spanos, even right now, coming back into the spotlight. Then I think there's the real estate build of the stadium. And then the fifth one is going to be the market shift that happens going back to San Diego.
Very good. Oliver, I see you over there looking a little bit shifty, a little bit energetic. I mean, are you ready to talk about your Cleveland Browns? We had Cole's
I am. I
Chargers, we had
am.
Jerry Jones Cowboys, we had Cole's Chargers, and now Oliver's bringing the Browns to the Super Bowl, maybe?
They need a Super Bowl. They need a Super Bowl. And there's no team I would rather see win a Super Bowl than the Cleveland Browns. And I mean, it's not just me, it's every single person, because we pity the Browns. We pity the Browns. It's sad. It's really sad. And Cole, you brought it up. You got to win the fan base back. To me, that's really important. And I know there's a little bit of a disagreement going on with Cleveland and the Browns, and talks of moving and talks of not moving, and what's needing to be contributed so that they don't, and all that they're going to give to the community. I think they just reached a settlement. It was like $100 million or $25 million. I think it was $100 million. So people are a little bit tired of being tired in Cleveland. The city of Cleveland itself is tired. And when you're a sports team, your goal is to create a place where people come together. You're supposed to rally around a city. We talked about that last week. And I think that's what Cleveland has a really strong foundation in. It's their fan base. They love them even in the worst times right now. And so I'm happy with that side of things. Obviously, there's certain aspects of the relationships with the city I want to improve on, and we'll get into that later. But what's more important right now for this team to actually turn around and become a dynasty is a good football team. That's what they're missing. They don't have it. They have no freaking cohesion between owners, between general managers, between head coaches. Everyone's in and out of there. No player ever wants to get drafted there. How many quarterbacks did they draft this year? 3? Was it 3 quarterbacks this year? And you've got people, wondering what's going to happen. Trade Joe Flacco to the same conference, a team in the same conference, and you're expecting what out of that? None of it makes sense over there right now. And if there was actual results being shown, through this chaos, great, but there aren't. And it's been decades. So that would be the first thing I would do when I get in there. Please interject. You got something.
If I may, what I would love to hear, I think what the audience would love to hear are maybe the 5 things, and then you touch on each of them. I would love to hear the 5 things first, and then we can touch on to each of them.
Perfect. General manager, new head coach. We need a new one of each. That's the first thing.
First thing is team.
No. General manager and head coach. That's my first action.
Employees, the talent.
That's my focus. I want to get 2 guys, and I'm not going to be the guy as the owner that's going to pretend that I'm the best football GM ever, because I'm not. If I can learn that throughout the time, awesome. I'd love to be involved, but the last thing I want to be is a micromanager. So that's number 1, great general manager and a head coach. After that, we need to completely solve this QB situation. Completely solve the QB situation, because every franchise is based on the strength of their quarterback. That's the first person you think about.
Is that Deshaun Watson? Deshaun Watson's coming back.
Deshaun Watson. Cole's got a great point.
You know what?
Look,
I'm over it. I want to.
You're going to get rid of Deshaun Watson?
2 Achilles injuries, 2 massage parlor incidents. How much on the cap? How much is he on the cap table? I need to get that cap space free. I don't want him as my guy. I'm not building a legacy on him. He's in the later stages of his career. That's my second tenet, is figure out a QB. And especially, especially when you have
You do have
someone that wants to be the absolute best quarterback of all time, and you have him as your 3rd stringer. That is a legacy dynasty quarterback that you can literally ride into the sunset with, and you've got him on your bench, and you're throwing a little fit at him. It's terrible. Everyone says it.
I want to interject and let Deshaun know, if he's watching this, that he's more than welcome to come on the Keepin It Loose podcast and defend himself.
That's right. That's right.
Our co-host Oliver, but please continue. So you said
the massage industry is also a huge, mega billion-dollar industry across the entire United States, the entire world. So just think about that.
I'm not blaming Deshaun Watson for getting a massage, because I mean, hey man.
All right.
Not worried about it.
A little too loose. Got to bring it back. So we're talking GM and coach, talking quarterback number 2.
He's just not my legacy.
Understood. It's understood.
Number 3, and it leads right into it. After that cap space is cleared, we're going to be very diligent in how we're spending our money. I'm not fond of these mega deals. I really want to find a nice, lean team. I want to draft well, and I want to be putting together some guys that are powered by the head coach's drive and intensity to say, we're the Cleveland Browns. We're not a bunch of divas out here. And I want to bring that history home to this team, because that's the kind of pride you need to play with if you're on the Cleveland Browns. And I'm not forking around when I say it. So the next thing, how are we going to do this? This is tenet 4. How are we going to do this? How are we going to instill this? And this comes through partnerships. And the main partnership I'm thinking of when I'm talking about the Cleveland Browns is Netflix. Now, hear me out on this Netflix thing real quickly, and I'll get in my 5th point. I need a group that can paint our story. I need a group that can get the city excited. I need a group that can get the players amped up about being on the team, and Netflix can do that. through a partnership, endorsing our stadium, which needs to be improved, by the way. We're going to be putting together a gorgeous, gorgeous cinematic production that's going to highlight all of the decades of history that the Cleveland Browns have offered to the sport of football
In 4K?
in 4K, maybe even 3D.
So you're talking
Last thing is win Cleveland back. That's the last point. That's point 5. With all these 4 tenants, it's going to bring Cleveland right back to where they need to be, and everyone's going to be stoked to be a Cleveland Browns fan, and they're going to say, I told you so. And that's what I can't wait to do.
what kind of, do you think this is a 5-year horizon? We talked about Cole was going all the way out into the late 2000s, maybe into the 2100s with his. Is this a 5-year plan for you, Oliver? Is this 10-year plan?
You know what? It would be naive for me to say how long of a plan it's going to take, because I love what Cole said with how long it's going to take him, because it does take a long time. Look at the Cowboys run in the 90s. They haven't even sniffed it since. And that's sad. That sucks. But they were primed to continue on. I don't know. It could happen in 5 years.
Well,
It can happen in 15. But you have to be ready when you purchase a team that you're in it for the long haul, if you're in it for the reason of making it a successful dynasty. Otherwise, then you're looking at multiples and who's the cheapest team. I wouldn't have picked the Cleveland Browns if I was looking at discounts.
So you're making a comparison to the Cowboys here, who have only, I don't even know the multiple of what they've done over the last 20 years to their valuation. And they have not won more than, 3 playoff games since the early 2000s. So you're comparing, the Cowboys and what they've done, and you're trying to say that, and this is not meant to be combative, this is just to your comparison, that if you create a winning football team, then your brand and your valuation is just going to skyrocket up.
Right.
When the Cowboys have not had a winning football team in 20 years,
Right.
and they've completely skyrocketed.
No, that's
right?
that's an awesome distinction. And I think you're right that they're not dependent completely. I think that they lead into each other, but it's also the story that you want to paint. And if I was going based off of valuations, again, I would find the most discounted team. I would not care about any of their legacy, and I would try to turn that into a money-making engine. Now, I think there's ways to still do that, obviously, with the Browns being half the price of what the Cowboys are expected to be. But what I care about most when I'm purchasing a team is a team that I'm going to be in it for the long haul, and I can't wait to see them become great again. And I think no team deserves that more than the Cleveland Browns. So it was a good distinction. It wasn't combative in any way. But that's a good clarifying point.
So, Oliver, are you saying buy football team, make foosball team good, make foosball team more valuable?
I'm saying tell the story of greatness.
Well,
That's what I'm saying.
Tell the
Because
story of greatness.
That's
You
what
know
I'm saying. Sell the story of greatness. It's an entertainment sport. And if you can't sell your own greatness, then what are you?
I just love all 3 of our personalities and mindsets and where we all came to with these questions, because none of them were going to fall on the same dot. And I think that is that's what the audience loves to see.
yeah, it's not even close.
Not
It's not
even
even
close. I think we
Yeah,
saw Cole a little bit more talk about fan engagement, fan expansion, branding, a little bit of those things. Oliver talked
real estate.
real estate. Oliver talked a little bit more about, hey, we're going to hire a new GM. We're going to hire a new coach and get a new quarterback. We're going to do the Netflix thing, content, right? This has some good things in there. Talent, content, right? And then the last one kind of fell on me. You're just trying, it was like more of a feeling thing. You said, make the Cleveland love us again. I mean, they have no other option, really. Do they?
You know what? They don't have any other option. That's very true. Very true. But boy, oh boy, would I love to see the smiles on their face one year. I mean, I tell you what, I would
You
love
buy
to
the
see
team
them
for
start
$6
to
billion
smile.
just to see their smiles on their face.
Oh boy, I mean, hey,
it's a fair
all good.
point. It's a fair point. Oliver's coming at it like the Detroit Lions model right now, and why they've grown in valuation. They went from being historically one of the worst franchises and most losing franchises of all time to being this powerhouse. Like, you don't
They're a
think the
powerhouse.
Lions are worth a lot more money now, 10 years later, because of how good they are playing football and because of the identity that Dan Campbell's created. Like, I think that's where he's more so coming at it from.
And
And
I'll
I'm more
piggyback on that. And I'll piggyback on that, Cole, because if we do want to talk about the Cowboys, I mean, yeah, the Cowboys have sucked, but they've sold the same legacy for the last 30 years. I want you to just take that in real quick. This is what's allowed them to grow over the last 30 years. They didn't have that stadium when the boys were playing in it. They were playing in Texas Stadium. They weren't playing in AT&T Stadium. They didn't have the practice fields. They didn't have the real estate in Arlington. All this came because of the theatric of this awesome team and the story that was painted around it. So I
yeah,
think if you really want to sell something, you have to make sure that you're appeasing your end user, which is the fans ultimately, because then you're going to want sponsors coming in there. You're going to have more investors wanting to get involved in your mix. You're showing people you know how to do things the right way. No one wants to just throw money at a losing org. Hell no.
Oliver, with that mustache, there's not a story that you can't tell.
yeah, I
Shoot
agree.
him.
I agree.
And what's so interesting about this, looking at this from a high level perspective, the way I saw both of yours, and then I'll compare it to mine. So I think you guys will be ready for the show. The hurricane I mentioned previously was that Skach came at this from a perspective of, I think, somebody like a CEO, somebody that came in here and they're just looking at it actually as a very conservative, stable CEO. Somebody that's going, you know what, we want to hire somebody that's going to come in here and I think they're going to run the team and they're going to make improvements here and there throughout the next 20 years. They're going to build a value. They're going to be very democratic in how they do things and talking to their fans and things of that nature, kind of like how Cole runs our fantasy football league. With Oliver, I saw a lot more actually coming at it from like a GM perspective. You coming in and you going, hey, I'm not thinking about maybe the other aspects of owning an NFL team, but it was really about running an NFL team, about you wanting to come in and you're going into the press conferences and you want that team to win. You want to get the best coach, the best quarterback. You want to give them the best opportunity. And you're doing it for, I think, deep sentimental reasons. Maybe then other ways. That's how I would see both of those. What I think is interesting about maybe me and the way that I'm going to be sharing this is I'm coming at this from a tech founder perspective, which is going to be basically bringing in the kitchen sink, gentlemen, shaking things up, slicing and dicing. We're talking about the New York Jets and Dalton Skach's plans to unlock this potential, if I may. Top
Please.
5 things that Dalton Skach would do after purchasing the New York Jets in order to unlock the value, make them a little bit more loose. Phase 1 is a rebrand. I'm going to go into all of these one by one. Rebrand number 1, rebrand the New York Jets. 2 is talent. The people that work for the New York Jets. Talent, people is everything. We'll get into that in a little bit as well. 3 is how you tell your story. Same thing that you said, Oliver. The content, right? Expanding the gospel of the New York Jets. 4, that expansion. Where are you expanding to? Cole's expanding to other parts of LA and Southern California. Oliver's not really expanding. You're really staying. I mean,
I'm
it seems like
revitalizing Cleveland. Yep.
area. The Jets, the formerly known Jets, will be expanding elsewhere, which we'll be getting into in a little bit like that. And the 5th thing is the experience, right? Is the creating a whole new experience that hasn't been seen before in in the NFL, maybe in all professional sports. So, gentlemen, I just want to touch on each of those a little bit briefly, so you can hear where I'm coming from. The first is the rebrand. I already told you, New York, the capital of finance for the country. We're talking about Cleveland Browns, talking about the Los Angeles Chargers. These can be capitals, teams of a country or of a state, maybe. New York can be the team that is adopted throughout the world, and I would say even the galaxy, because we're going to the moon. The New York Jets are going to be formally changed to the New York Rockets. Very bullish on the New York Rockets, and we will also be looking for crypto and blockchain companies to partner with us for private token sales, NFTs, metaverses, everything of that nature. We will be leaning into the future of finance in New York, and we are going to the moon through the New York Rockets. The second thing, yeah, this is not just, hey, we're going to go discount some tickets or we're going to go get a new GM. This is, we're going to do a full rebrand because I want to unlock this value. This is a brand that has been dying for 5 decades. 5 decades, ever since Joe Namath won the Super Bowl here. It has had no positivity or positive memories in about 50 years. Talking about me, this is a new era. This is a new generation. So we're talking about a completely new rebrand. I told you both, this is from a tech founder perspective of what I would do to unlock the most value. This is high risk. This is high reward, I believe. You guys can tell me if I'm wrong. Strategic talent investment, gentlemen. So it starts from the top to the bottom. Elite coach, GM, facilities, hitting that salary cap, also giving our players and our fans maybe some tokens and things of that nature as compensation. Phase 3 is the content empire. Oliver, I think you did a very good job of talking about this. Content is king. Content does tell the story. We're talking Netflix, Amazon. We're talking all of our social media channels, behind the scenes access, international content, and also, again, content that you can unlock through maybe the things we're talking about with cryptocurrency, blockchain, and the like. 4, I want to do something that we've never done so far, Keeping It Loose podcast. I want to share my screen. How am I going to do this? Where is it at? Share screen.
Right down
Gentlemen.
there. Big tech founder guy. Can't
Yeah,
figure out
yeah,
how to
exactly.
share his screen.
You're laughing now until I show you boys this.
Here come the Rockets.
You boys see you see what I'm seeing right here. We're seeing half of the world population within this circle in Asia. These people do not relate to Cleveland, and they relate less to California and Los Angeles. The biggest global brand city is New York, and we intend to expand India, China, Japan.
You know what? You lost me there, and I'm just going to call it how it is. I mean, we had a whole discussion, and let me be frank. We had a whole discussion about where we think the best expansion plans were. And that was never discussed because no one thought that would ever work.
Whoa, what would
India,
never work?
You talk about
playing
China.
games is different than building a brand overseas.
Did you not say you wanted to relocate them to China and India?
No, I want to expand the brand. I want to expand our fan base to Asia. Not only in New York, while you guys are over in LA's, over in Mexico City, and you guys
thank you for clarifying that.
Because Toronto and London and things of that nature, I'm going to be expanding the New York Rockets to Asia to tap into this market before the New York Giants do so. That's 4 billion people. So you'll have the Dallas Cowboys, they do their thing. Again, we are not going to be the team of America or the world. We will be the team of where, gentlemen? Team of the galaxy. Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
Last but not least, in my strategy to unlock the most value, we're not just going to just 2x our investment, gentlemen. We want to unlock the most value. This is tech founder perspective. Talk about the Jets hospitality, the Rockets. The Rockets hospitality and experience economy. We're not talking about going to the Rockets Stadium or maybe Starbase, whatever we call it in the future. But we're talking about going to a new football Disney World, a place where you come here out of all of the 9 weeks of the year that the New York Rockets are playing. And you're not just coming in for the 1 p.m. game, but you're coming for the entire weekend. You're going to experience the American Dream Mall, the largest mall in all of the United States. You're going to experience the New York Rockets. You're going to experience everything that we build around it. It's going to be treated just like Disneyland, where you can go 365 days a year. Maybe you can't do that in New Jersey in the Meadowlands, but we are sure going to try. Where people
How are you going to finance that?
People go to Buffalo. What do you mean? People go to Buffalo to go to these games and experience the Buffalo Mafia style, and people will come to the Rockets Center on the weekends to experience this, for lack of a better word, party, this experience. This is EDC. This is what we're talking about. We're thinking big here at the New York Rockets. I know.
How are you going to finance? How are you going to finance all that?
Comprehend, but that is what I am planning. I am planning on a rebrand. I am planning on better talent. I am also planning on content, better content, more content, expansion to the largest area of the world, most populated, and then last but not least, creating an experience only seen at Disney World. All right, now you two may come.
Okay, let me rip you apart real quick. How are you going to finance that?
With cash, baby. Cash, money.
You're gonna purchase all of that in cash
and
everything?
tokens. You also have cryptocurrency.
Well, I just was curious if in your research and in your diligence you perhaps came across an NFL debt cap per team.
Chew, we're talking about a rebrand, okay? Not a big deal. We're talking about
just curious if you're buying an entire Disneyland park and everything of the likes.
You don't need a Disneyland park. Maybe you misread what I'm trying to say about the Disney World experience. I'm talking about creating an experience. And if you want to pull up another map, I can share my screen again. I will.
Please do.
Pull up Meadowlands, and I'll show you all of that area around there that is needed, that can be used for development, but we don't even need to develop that. What I'm saying is that we already have the infrastructure there to create an experience. We're just not doing it because the New York Jets are ruining that area, not the New York Rockets, not with me at the helm. But what I would say about the cost of this is it does not cost a lot to rebrand. We're going to get money through the crypto investments and the sponsorships. The talent investment, we're going to be putting the money where it needs to go. Jet Studios, content and buyer, partnering with the social medias, the big studios, Asia expansion. We're going to expand. We're going to use our content. We're going to hire people to go do it. It's going to be a multi-year process, but the New York Rockets will be Asia's team. And last but not least, the experience. And this has to be leveraging our already existing infrastructure. I'm done.
Well, I was surprised you didn't say that you were going to send them up in a rocket and have them watch the TV.
I thought I could have sworn he was going to go to the moon. I could have sworn these fans were going to go to the moon middle of the game and come back. And for the second half is really what I thought.
No one likes watching TV and football more than the comfort of a spacecraft.
And the NFL's tried nothing to expand into Asia, is what you're saying. You're saying nobody has thought about how are you going to expand into Asia under just your brand? Are you going to send people out to Asia and just start marketing only the New York Rockets for you? Like, what's the plan?
How do you say
why
rocket
is nobody else
Chinese?
Try to go into the Asian market? I mean, the NFL slowly expanding into each and every, like we talked about that a couple episodes ago about Japan or about Australia or wherever it is. So why can the New York Rockets just completely start owning Asian market share? Why?
Well, first, it starts with the mission that I have put forth for the New York Rockets. I told you boys, we are the team of the galaxy. All right. And we are going to the moon. And then from there, that's the mission. We're going to put in the right talent in all of these aspects. The right talent will get done what I want to get accomplished. That's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to hire the talent to do everything that I want done, because that is what New York Rockets and our fans and our players deserve.
You know what, Dalton? You did exactly what you said. And I appreciate the enthusiasm, because you said you're going to approach this like a tech founder. And I think about the tech space, and I think about the number of companies that raise exorbitant amounts of money off of no revenue. And then before it ever crashes down on them, they sell it to someone else and it's their problem. So I'm curious, what is your timeline on this whole thing?
10 years.
10 years to be the team of the galaxy.
Team of the galaxy in 10 years.
By hiring the right people. Give them
the right mission. Give them the right mission. You hire the right people and make them incentivized in order to meet that mission. That's what we're going to do. It's
And
just
you brought up
business
talent
101.
too. You
It's
brought up
nothing
talent
crazy.
too.
What I am going to be doing is going to be lifting up not only the New York Rockets, but also the entire league in general.
Well, so I just want to dig into another point too. You brought up talent, right? You brought up how you're going to make these, you're going to clean house and create a powerhouse team. And so if you have your players playing right next to EDC Park Disneyland, I mean, do you think that's a conducive environment for a successful professional sports team?
Are we talking about football still? That was going to be my question. Are we still playing football?
Talking about
at
a
any point?
franchise right here, but we're talking about a franchise. I'm not. I mean, like Oliver's coming over here and saying, "Oh, hey, can the players play in this environment where they have whatever going on?" We have SoFi Stadium in the middle of downtown Los Angeles or whatever it might be. I gave you guys the answer. It's going to be a mission driven company. I'm going to hire the right people. They're going to want to work for this company because I'm going to incentivize them to be a team that's going to go from $10 billion to $100 billion. And it's going to uplift the rest of the NFL franchises, maybe in professional sports, because I was willing to think outside the box. I'm not breaking the bank. It's not going to cost $50 billion to do. No, none of these things even suggest that.
Yeah, they do. In my opinion, they do suggest that. I'm just having a tough time figuring out behind a mission statement why you can get the entire continent of Asia to buy into the New York Rockets.
We're going to win games and we're going to be the team of the galaxy. And that's why people are going to like us. And we're going to talk to them in their languages. And we are going to, again, have the people that are going there. We're going to create content. We're going to do content in every which way. We're going to do partnerships with the top companies in Asia as well in order to get our brand in front of everybody over there and before anybody else does. Because here's the thing. You can't do this with Cleveland. You can't do this with Dallas. You can't do this with most franchises. So we're just going to do it first.
I'm looking, and this is pure speculation just based on things that I've seen and the types of people that actually excel in the sport of football based on their build, athleticism, and things of the likes, upbringing. I've never once, and this is just completely my perspective, correct me if I'm wrong, please. I've never once seen one Indian football player, and I've never once seen one Chinese football player. I don't know where Younghoe Koo is from, but I'm just trying to understand, how do you get a bunch of people that have never loved a sport to become great at a sport?
We could sit here for the rest of the year talking about the details and the specifics. I gave you the top 5 things that I'm going to do. Those are my mission statements. That is my strategy. I'm going to be high. It's all breaking down, but this could take days, if not weeks, if not years, days or weeks to go through all of this. But that is what I plan on doing. That's why I believe the New York Jets was undervalued, why I think it has a lot of potential, especially with the plans that I put in place. But gentlemen, we're getting to the hour right now. I just want to say,
I understand. I understand. I'm not trying to poke holes in exactly what you're going to do right now at this point. I understand what you're trying to do. And my biggest concern as well is the NFL in any way allowing you to do something like this. Because they're going to need to approve you going out to Asia in front of them and just marketing one team to that entire sector of human beings, right? Like that. I question the NFL letting one franchise go out and do that. And I don't know, maybe, I mean, the Jacksonville Jaguars in London, right? Like they're the team of London. Like you can make that like comparison, and the Jaguars play more games in London than anybody else. But like the NFL they're in control. And so that's where I wanted to make my point of like, that's where I saw
what you're saying.
the biggest hurdle is for honestly, the Los Angeles Chargers are not very far from China and Japan and Asia, right? Like we're right. So like, I know I didn't come up with that idea. But if you come out and say, and we see the New York Rockets start going out and creating content to all of Asia, the Los Angeles Chargers are going to start doing that same thing, right? And the NFL is going to be like, whoa, 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 everybody. Like, we control the marketing and branding and where we go and everything. So I just wanted to make that point. I do think it's thinking outside of the box. It's not something I thought of. I was more so for the Los Angeles Chargers. Like, one of my points was Mexico, right? So like I was around that same wavelength of like, the Los Angeles Chargers, the San Diego Chargers could be the team of Mexico, undoubtedly. I think they have a lot of roots. You look at the Padres. So, like, I see that, but I just don't think the NFL will allow it. And that's the final point I wanted to make on that coming up on the hour here.
And
But
I
I think
want to,
it's thinking outside the box.
and I want to come up as we're coming up on the hour too. I want to make one last point because I was giving you grief to poke holes because I know you can take a little bit of hole poking. And when you and I will say, so to end it positively here, thinking outside the box is awesome because if you can create a reaction in someone that you're thinking too big, maybe you're onto something, right? And it came off as super big, and it came off as something like I said, I thought you were relocating to China just based on the things you were saying.
Nope.
I didn't know where you were going. It was a lot. So
We are staying in New York.
but I appreciate the egregious sentiment in trying to drive home a team and expand the NFL to become even better than it is now. So
I think
very
it's
well done.
Yeah, I think it was well done as well. I just have like my opinions about it right now. That's the only thing. So I think it was well done, Dalton, and you thought a little bit differently than definitely Oliver and I did. And I think that's the cool part about this, right?
Yeah.
Is the world's your oyster. We're on Keeping It Loose podcast. That was
right.
loose, dude. That's a loose segment right there.
It was very loose. And on that end, I just want to thank everybody for coming and watching Keeping It Loose, episode 4, Skach, OMamba, Shawa. Thank you for rejoining us. Looking forward to episode 5 next week, gentlemen. What a colorful and wonderful conversation. Looking forward to many more. Keeping it loose, boys. Stay loose. Skach out.
Go Colts, baby.